Hello everyone. In this article, one will tell you about the mechanics of the penetrating bomb from the mathematical and physical side. That is, we will tell you how it does it, that it penetrates so deeply into a very hard material such as rock or reinforced concrete, whether the main role here is played by speed or mass, maybe something else. We will also tell you what happens in this tunnel after the bomb, whether this material evaporates here, disappears, what happens to it, and what mathematics is behind. The penetrating bomb penetrating so deeply into a hard material. Let's start with this mathematics of penetration. Penetration itself is the movement of matter at very high speeds and enormous pressures. To describe such situations, we most often use nonlinear partial differential equations. And as here, for example, you can use such a system of equations of density, momentum, and energy. It looks very complicated, and indeed it is. Often these problems are not easy to solve, especially since they must also take into account many different initial conditions and a mass of others, such as, for example, thermal effects related to the deformation of matter, or, for example, wave propagation. Here we have several types of waves with such a penetration of the bomb into such a material. The basic one is, of course, the shock wave, generated by the bomb, and it is located in front of the projectile. But there is also an expansion wave that acts behind the bomb and compresses the previously pushed material back. And there are also various other reflected waves. The relationships between these waves describe various. For example, such a system of Euler equations, which may not seem very complicated at first glance. But even if from these are such vectors, where rho is the density of the material, this is quite easy. This is the speed of energy propagation. Here the speed of basically moving the bomb, we can say approximately. But for example, this is the total kinetic energy, which in this case is described not by the relationship we know 1/2 mv2, but a more general one, where instead of we have the density of the matter and we integrate after the change in volume. Well, from x this is our velocity. For such holistic objects like a bomb, it can be generalized to such a simple case. But when we consider it molecularly, we unfortunately have to consider something like this. For example, such an innocent letter P in all of this means pressure, which is described by such a relationship, where gamma is some constant. These inscriptions are functions of the Huygens curve, which is related to another issue of calculating the pressure generated by the bomb. They can be described by such a simplified Huygens equation of this form, where R0 is the density of the rock, versus is the speed of propagation of the shock wave. In the material, it depends on the material in which it propagates, of course. For example, we can calculate it this way. This number is related to the speed of the bomb, while these are rock constants, which we determine experimentally, while V with the B index is simply the speed of the particles, which can be approximately treated as the impact speed, i.e. the speed of our bomb. In this case, I assumed it to be 343 for this most powerful bomb, which was recently used. This is the speed I managed to find, that it was able to achieve, if it was dropped from a height of over 10 kilometers. This is a huge speed, close to the speed of sound, and for such sample values we can calculate the generated pressure, which in this case came out to me equal to 5,800 megapascals. This is a gigantic pressure, considering that ordinary concrete is supposed to withstand compressive strength of up to 40 megapascals. If we take such high-quality concrete, well, it will have a little more, and such super strong concrete reaches several hundred megapascals, but it will probably not exceed 1,000, even if it is very well reinforced. And such the most durable rock, i.e. granite, has a compressive strength of about 200 megapascals, while an average rock will be about 60 megapascals. So if the bomb is able to exert such enormous pressure, well, it will enter such rock like butter. There remains here. There is also the issue of the strength of the bomb itself. On average, the alloys used to create the body of such a bomb have a strength of about 1,600 megapascals. These are special steel alloys, sometimes with the addition of tungsten. And as a result of impact under the influence of enormous speed and pressure, it often increases its compressive strength even several times, to several thousand megapascals, and is able to withstand such enormous pressure. So it does not deform, and the rock behaves like soft earth. However, in the calculations, the lower compressive strength is assumed as the base value, i.e. about 1,600 megapascals. Now you can wonder where the mass of the bomb is in all this, because it also plays a huge role in this. Penetration, for example, for this GBU-57 bomb, the mass is over 13 tons. It has an impact on the kinetic energy and the tether of this bomb. These values do not really have an impact on the pressure generated by the bomb, because it depends only on the surface velocity. impact, or the shape of the bomb, while momentum is very important. For the bomb to continue penetration, as the tether is lost, the speed decreases. Well, naturally, the pressure weakens. So let's sum up. What does the depth of penetration depend on? First of all, on the speed must be enormous. For this penetration in the hard material to begin, so that the rock can crumble, the bomb can begin to penetrate. Well, the impact surface is also of great importance here. Bombs are usually quite narrow. This one, for example, is less than a meter in diameter at its widest point and about 6 meters long, thanks to which it is narrow and easily enters the body like a needle. So generally the speed of the impact surface generates enormous pressure, the pressure of the shock wave, which starts the penetration. And then thanks to the momentum, which is really a huge mass, the bomb can continue this penetration to a very great depth, even in very hard terrain. And of course the hardness and shape of the bomb are also important. As we've already mentioned here, this tip in particular must be strong enough to withstand this enormous pressure, and the shape must also be appropriate to optimize the whole process. How important this aspect is, you can see for yourself by jumping into a pool, either with a bomb or head first. In both cases we will get a different result. Here the splash will be big, we will not dive as deep. As in this case, here the splash will be small and the jumper will enter very smoothly, deep under the water, and of course the angle of impact is also important. If the angle is poor, the effect will also be poor. But what happens to this rock that is created here during this penetration? Does it disappear, evaporate? What happens to it? It is simply pushed to the sides as a result of this enormous pressure. Our bomb compresses, this reinforced concrete crushes the rock, any hard material sideways, so the local pressure of this material through which it penetrates increases. Then when the bomb has already passed a part of this tunnel, the tunnel behind it is filled in, this material is expanded. What we were talking about, here compression occurs. When the bomb is squeezing through the rock, this rock is crushed, partially crushed, and when it has already passed, then there in this corridor behind this rock, the rock again expands and fills this gap after the bomb with fragments. And itself, not yet crushed, if it has not undergone such a change, it simply returns to its original shape. Some of the matter can fly out here through this channel at the moment of impact. However, deeper down, basically nothing flies out, everything closes behind itself. Just like a jumper jumping into water does not leave a tunnel in the water behind him, or a bullet passing through a body. Even if it goes through, it does not leave a tunnel behind him. This tissue closes, the water closes. The earth closes here too, the rock closes behind the bomb. Slightly changed, crumbled, but as a result of these expanding forces, it returns to its previous shape. The bomb, when it reaches the right height, explodes. Thank you for your attention.